And then how did you kind of have an interest in assisting people who, people who are victims of domestic violence? Like, how did that come through?
For me, that came through with my women's studies work, and just through also the cultural norms of just I would just say my early feminist values, that I would say my big belief right now is that if everyone has economic equality, then people can maybe make different choices if they're in a situation where they're suffering abuse. And I think it just meant a lot to me growing up to see that when folks had that sort of education and economic stability, they could make different decisions. And so I do remember a situation where I was going somewhere off by myself, and I had a grandfather who's like, "You can't do that." And I said, "Well, why?" So I sort of grew up in a more traditional household, but very Americanized and independent. Not that that's a story about domestic violence, but just more about like women's empowerment. And when I started taking women's studies classes, I really started to understand the feminist theory behind this idea about, women just having their own voice and their own space and their own employment opportunities. And then when I had that internship in law school at the women's shelter at the YWCA, it just really all came full circle to me. I thought I was going to be a public defender. I was always interested in fighting for people's rights, but the domestic violence piece came later when I saw that, women were afraid that if they called the police, their abuser would lose their job, and how would they feed their kids? They were afraid that if they called the police, they wouldn't have a place to live. And so the whole part about the, women's issues and rights and domestic violence just all kind of came like full circle, and things that I had thought as a young person and then saw once I started working with people directly.